Hello and welcome to Design Make Play TV. I'm your host, Zachary Anderson. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, here on Design Make Play, we seek to engage makers through discussion and challenge, to learn about the STEAM-based curriculum, and of course to showcase maker projects. If you like anything that you see here today, make sure to check us out at zenmakerlab.com, where we offer a variety of programs. We've also been selling PPE equipment and project kits, so you can check those out at shop.zenmakerlab.com. So, throughout this live stream, I will be trying to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any responses to the challenges that we present here today, or any of our questions, make sure to message us at ZenMakerLab on Instagram and Twitter. And for all your posts, make sure to include #DesignMakePlay. So that covers our introduction for this morning. Let's go ahead and jump right into our challenge for today. So I hope you're ready. This is a fun one, and it has to do with sandwiches. Okay, so this problem is a math problem, and this is our math problem for the day. It's Nikolai's crust. So yesterday, Nikolai was eating a sandwich. Nikolai is one of the instructors here at Zen, and I noticed that he didn't like any crust in the sandwich. So I thought I'd come up with this question about him today. Okay, so what is this question? So Nikolai goes out and he buys a circular loaf of bread. He buys a circular loaf of bread, and for a sandwich, you're gonna need 2 slices of bread. Well, they cut this sphere, this perfect sphere, into 10 equal slices, okay? 10 equal slices. So that's 2 slices per sandwich, so that's enough for 5 people. Well, Nikolai, he's got there's him, there's his dad, his mom, his sister, and his little dog, Maxwell. So, those are the 5 members of his family, and each of them is going to take 2 slices of crust, okay? 2 slices of this bread for their sandwich. Now, Nikolai loves, he's very hungry. He loves peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but he wants as little crust as possible. He does not like crust. So, if we take a look at this spherical loaf of bread here, you can see that I've sliced it up into 10 slices, okay? I want to know which 2 slices of this spherical loaf should Nikolai take, so that he ends up with the least amount of crust, okay? What 2 of these 10 slices of our spherical loaf of bread should Nikolai take so that he gets the least amount of crust, okay? So that is the area around the outside of the slice here, right? So that would be this shaded area. Now, they're all the same thickness. Okay? Some thickness T, and we've got 10, 2 times the radius will be 10T, okay? That's the height of our loaf, right? We cut it into 10T, okay? So that is the question. We want to know how many, what slice should Nikolai take, what 2 slices for his sandwich. Now, you'll notice that if we cut this into a hemisphere, okay, that reduces the problem a little bit, right? So if we just look at the top hemisphere, you actually see that there's only 5 unique slices, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I put it on this line here. Okay? So there's actually only 5 unique slices. So of these 5 slices, and I'll label them here. Okay? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one's 5, this one's 4, this one's 3, this one's 2, this one's 1. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of those 5, which one should he take for his sandwich that he ends up with the least amount of crust? So that covers your math challenge for this morning. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next up, we're going to be riding right into our Design Make Play segment, so I hope you're ready.
Hello and welcome to another segment of Design Make Play Show. My name is Aryan, I'm the designer at Zen Maker Lab. And today I'm going to talk about one-point perspective. So today we're gonna talk about perspective. So what is perspective? Perspective is the way of looking at things. For example, when I'm looking at this camera, that's my perspective. When I turn my head and look at this camera, that's my other perspective. The guys behind the camera, they have the other perspective too. So way of looking things is a definition of perspective. But how can we create that perspective? There are different types of perspectives. There's 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective. So today, we're going to demonstrate how to do 1-point perspective. So have your pencil and paper ready, and let's jump right in. So now that you have your paper and pencil ready, we're going to just jump in on our computer, on our papers, and get started. So for start, let's just put a focal point in our middle of our paper. So I'm just going to draw a point, because this is called 1-point perspective, right? We're just going to use 1 point. So what we call this 1 point is focal point. Why we call this, we're gonna know really soon. So this is our focal point. What I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna draw a line going through my focal point. There we go. It's hard to draw a straight line. One of the things you guys can do, you guys can use a ruler to make it easier for yourself. There we go, I have my focal point and a horizon line. What we call this line is a horizon line. Why we call this horizon line? Because in this case, because we're drawing a road, it's separating the sky from the road. So I'm gonna draw 2 lines coming out of my focal point. There we go, 1 and 2. Beautiful. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna try to draw 2 more lines coming out of my focal point again. 1. It's hard to draw lines without a ruler, but 1, 2. So as you guys can see, it looks like a triangle, but there's no bottom part, and things getting really bigger when they're getting closer to us. So I'm gonna draw lines, connecting lines in here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, I'm gonna have them a little bit closer. These are my street lines, right? They're getting bigger when they're getting closer to me. This one is getting really big. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna erase the extras so that I don't have them. Nice. And I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna erase this part, and then this end row line is gonna be really tiny. So I have my row lines, I have my road, and then what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna just draw lines going upwards. Why this time going upwards? Because things getting bigger, right? So I'm just gonna draw my street lights like that. Beautiful. As you guys can see, things getting really bigger when they're getting closer to us. There we go. There we go. I'm just doing a really fast one. You guys can spend more time just using the technique. And the reason behind why we're using these guides to create stuff is to just keep the proportions really perfect at all the time. If you don't use these techniques, you're gonna lose your it's hard to follow up the proportion and scale rule without using some guides. So these techniques are used for just following how to keep the proportion and scales in a perfect case. So there we go. I'm just going to erase the extras, and then you guys can start adding stuff. So I'm just going to get rid of these extra lines. You guys can do a more cleaner job than me. I'm just doing it really fast so that you guys can follow up. Now that you have your 1-point perspective with the street lights and the road lines, and now that everything's making sense, let's add more stuff to it. Let's add some clouds. You can have puffy clouds, whatever clouds you guys like to do. Let's add some sun. Sun, there we go, it's shining there, it's summertime. And then you guys even can add a person like standing there all the way at the end of the road. It's gonna be really tiny. So like that. You can add trees, you can add cars, you can add buildings, and you can add whatever you want to your one-point perspective and show it off to your friends. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this design segment. My name is Aryan, I'm the designer at Zenmaker Lab, and hopefully you guys have a great day and take care.
Hello guys, and welcome to this Make segment. I'm your host, Zachary Anderson, and today we're going to be taking a look at the musical stylings of Ariana Grande. In particular, we're going to be analyzing the specific harmonics that are in some of her melodies in the new song, Rain on Me. So I hope you guys are excited, but before we jump right into that, why don't we go ahead and let's play this song for you. My phone's dead. So guys, we're gonna learn about the MP3 player. So we're gonna be designing an MP3 player today and learning about the engineering design process, okay? So that involves identifying and defining a problem, brainstorming and doing some research, and then finally building a model and building a prototype so that we can actually listen to the sweet, sweet sound of Ariana Grande. I hope you guys are ready. I'm Zachary, and let's jump right into it. So there are multiple stages to the design process, which is the first thing we'll be talking about. And the first stage is to identify the problem. So I'm first going to identify and define what my problem is. And that being that I can't listen to Ariana Grande. I want a new device that is independent of my phone that I can use to listen to music. So that's what we're going to be looking to do, is actually develop a new device that we can use to listen to music solely. So next up, we have to do something which is known as research. So we have to research possible solutions or provide more context to the actual problem. So I'm going to take a look at possible alternatives that I could use to listen to Ariana Grande. One could be the computer, one could maybe be an iPod or something like this. But again, I want a completely separate device that I know the battery or the power will be dedicated just for listening to music and not for a variety of other things that I do throughout the day. So once we have done our research, then we can go ahead and start brainstorming some possible solutions. Then, once we brainstorm some, then we can take a look at actually building our prototype. So I already have an idea in mind. I'm planning to build an MP3 player, and I'm going to be using a couple of standard components in this MP3 player. So why don't we go ahead, we're going to jump to the next phase, which is actually building the prototype. Once we built the prototype, we can use that prototype and test it, see if it's going to work. We can give it to the end user and see how it's doing. And then of course we're going to do iterative design, right? So we're going to be looking at feedback and constantly updating this until it's at a point that is good, that is usable, right? So that'll be our final step, is this iterative design, testing, and feedback. So this is what our design process will look like. Next, we're going to jump into the system visual. Okay, so we now know about the design process. Why don't we go ahead and we're going to build a system visual as we would in sort of this prototyping phase. So we've already defined our problem, we've done our research, we've brainstormed our solution, and now we're on the prototyping phase. And I'm going to start to draw out a system visual for this prototype. So first things first, we need to listen. So I'm going to have over here a speaker. Next up, I'm going to need something to control this thing, and so I'm going to need a microcontroller. I also need something to interface between the controller and the speaker, and that's going to be my driver. I also need to interact with some sort of human being, which means I'm going to need some sort of interface, and so those are going to be some push buttons. And finally, I'm going to need some sort of power source. We're almost done. I actually missed one thing, which is we're going to need the actual memory of the song, and so we're going to add a memory into this system visual. But there we go, then we've got all our parts. So we've got our power source, our controller, memory, our push buttons, and then our driver and our speaker. So this is a crude example of a system visual, and next we're going to take a look at what each component actually looks like. So guys, we're back at the table now, and luckily enough, I have procured each of the elements that we had on our system visual. Now, we can take a look at each component and talk a little bit more about the function that they're supposed to provide. So here are my 5 essential elements. So let's take a look at the first one, which is our transducer. So the transducer will convert electrical energy into mechanical energy. And this is how we're going to generate the sound waves to listen to Ariana Grande's Rain on Me. So if you hold it up to your ear, of course you're going to be able to hear this. And this is intuitive for all of us. But this is our speaker. Next up, we have our USB. So our USB drive is actually what we're going to be saving these songs onto, right? We need to have them in some sort of storage. And this is a solid state storage. So we're going to be saving it in binary, 1s and 0s. And that binary is going to have to be decoded into a format that we can actually drive through the speaker, right? So this is our storage device, our USB. Next up, we have our microcontroller. Yes, this is the microcontroller. Now, I love these things. This is an Arduino microcontroller, and I use them for a variety of my projects here at Zenmaker Lab. But this is great because we can use this to control our human interface, okay? We're using it to control the human interface, and we're also using it to tell our DFP mini player, which we'll see shortly, when to start playing the music, when to stop. So this is sort of our management, okay, our controller for the entire project. It's also our power supply. Remember that we can't just create energy from nothing, right? Otherwise we'd be billionaires if you figure that out. So for the rest of us, we have to have some sort of power source. And that power source is actually right here. So we're going to be plugging it in with a cable right here, and then there's a little voltage regulator on the bottom that will be regulating the actual amount of power that we are transferring. Next up we have tactile switches. So these are tactile switches, also known as push buttons, but if you look them up on Mouser or DigiKey, they're not going to call them push buttons, they're going to call them tactile switches. And they make this clicking sound if you go ahead and click on them. And every time I push down and you hear that click, I'm actually connecting 2 pins on this side to the 2 pins on this side. So these 2 pins, these 2 here, maybe I'll hold that up here. So these 2 pins here are actually connected together. And if I turn it around, these 2 pins here are connected together. And when I push the button, it's going to connect these 2 across to these 2. And this is one way that we can signal to the Arduino when we want it to perform an action. Like say, turn the volume up, turn it down, go to the next song, pause our song, whatever we like. So that is our human interface. And next up, we have our DFP mini player. So for our speaker to actually drive the speaker, to actually send current in and produce that mechanical energy, we need a driver. We need some sort of device that can handle and decode the binary that is on our USB into some electrical signals that will properly drive our speaker and produce sound. So that's what this guy does. And we control this guy with our Arduino. So that is the purpose of our DFP mini player. So we're gonna be plugging this into our board to actually drive our speaker. So that covers the 5 most essential components in our system visual. But of course we have some peripheral components here. So these are our other components, and I'll be talking more about these components in the next video. All right, make challenge time. So I want you to go out into your community, family, friends, family pet, whatever it is. I want you to define and identify a problem. I want you to brainstorm some solutions, and I want a physical solution that you can then draw a system visual for. And that's what I'm looking for. So that's your challenge today. I want you to draw out a system visual and block diagram for whatever that solution is, and you can follow us at ZenMaker Lab, #DesignMakePlay. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We got to learn a lot about the design process and how to build and draw a system visual. So if you like this, I hope that you tune in for our next Make segment, where we'll be continuing this project by actually putting everything together. So I'm excited to see you guys there. Bye for now.
Hey everyone, it's Coach Greg here on the Design Make Play show, and we're in the play zone. We have a really cool week ahead of us. We're going to learn all about table tennis. We brought the best, Coach Luba from the North Shore Table Tennis Club. Welcome.
Thank you for warm welcome, and I'm happy to be here. Next week we're going to do an introduction to table tennis and how table tennis relates to physical literacy, so anyone can be physically literate with table tennis, so I'm excited to do this.
Excellent. So, let's get started.
So today we're going to learn how about the basic position at the table, and also how to hold the racket, which we call the grip. There's different grips in table tennis. We're going to learn what's called a shake hand grip. So it looks like you're shaking someone's hand. So I want you to point out your index finger and your thumb out like this. It doesn't matter if you're a right-hander or left-hander. If you're a left-hander, you use your left hand. If you are a right-hander, you use your right hand. Some kids ask me, I don't know which hand to play. Try both and see which one fits better. So today I'm a right-hander, Greg is a right-hander, right? So we're gonna put index finger and the thumb up like this. We're gonna take the racket from the table. We're gonna put the racket exactly in the middle between the index finger and the thumb. 3 remaining, we grab the handle. You place one finger on one side and the other finger on the other side. Let me check the grip. Good. Now make sure there is no finger on the rubber. Why? Because this is your playing surface, so the ball will be hitting your finger. So move it alongside of the rubber. Same thing on the other side. Your thumb should not be on the rubber. Should be on this shaped space on your blade. See that shaped space? Place your thumb there. Thank you. When you point your racket now in front of you like this, it looks like extension of your arm. So this is wrong because the point of your racket is facing the ceiling, so nicely everything is aligned like this. Now you bend your elbow, bring it closer to your hip. You should have a space about a tennis ball away from your hip like this. So not too close, not too far away, nicely 90-degree angle. Good. Now when you look at this, put your feet slightly wider than your shoulders. Too close a stance means that you're very wobbly, not very stable. So shoulder width away, bend your knees, and then lean forward. As you lean forward, make sure that you are arm length away from a table. So Greg is standing too close to the table, he needs to move a little bit. Good. Now at this position, you are perfectly standing at the table. You are not too close to the ball and you are not too far away from the ball. When we move at the table, we move what's called the shuffling movement. So you only go sideways like this, one step this way, one step this way. We should not be moving away from the table because we think the ball is too high or too close. We are going to be learning about that in our other sessions. So let's recap. Stand straight in a ready position. Now when I say 1, 2, 3, ready, everyone will get into a ready position. So 1, 2, 3. Good, in one movement. Again, feet together, and let's go. 1, 2, 3, ready position. Good job. I'm gonna do the left-hander now. Same thing, okay? So stand tall. 1, 2, 3, ready. Good job. One more time. 1, 2, 3, ready. You look like you are a skier on the slope, so you are in a very nice balanced position, and you can move to any position at the table. Okay, think about formula versus a track. Track is too high, very wobbly. But when you think about formula, it's closer to the floor, it's very stable. So now we can move faster. Also, when you stand at the table, put your weight slightly forward so you feel that your weight is transitioning to your front of the feet. If you're standing back on your feet, then you feel like you're falling back. So you want to shift the weight and you kind of want to lift your heels. And now, again, you can move faster. So smaller steps at the table, faster. Some people move with the big steps between, which is wrong. The knees should never meet in the middle. So think about stick between the knees. When you have a stick here, you cannot bring the knees together. So what you are doing, you're actually using your front of your feet as moving. When we are moving to the right, we move the left foot first, right foot follows. When we are going the other way, you move your right foot and then you move your left foot. Okay.
Nice.
So, Greg, you want to show me the ready position?
Excellent. Yeah.
Put the racket down.
We'll go here.
From how to hold the racket, which is called the grip.
The grip.
What is the grip called again? Shake hand
Shake
grip.
hand grip.
I want to also talk about the other grip, which is called the pen holder grip.
Okay.
Most Asian countries use the pen hold grip, yeah. So there is the Japanese, Korean, and Chinese grip. So it's the variation how they hold the racket. So how do you put the fingers at the back? Yeah. So now we're gonna only do the shake hand grip.
Okay.
Good.
So we'll learn the main grip.
Yeah. So again, how
Nice.
far from a table do we stand? Arm length away from a table.
Like the way.
What do we do with the knees? We bend the knees
Knees bent. Sit.
and lean forward.
Lean forward.
Where do we put the weight? We put the weight slightly forward. Now I'm coming too close to the table, so I'm not gonna adjust.
Yeah.
So now I feel my heels are almost like a little bit lifted.
Okay.
Okay, and now we can move
Yeah.
to the right, which is your right over there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go to the left. I move my right foot
Right
first.
foot first.
Yeah, so one foot at
Push
a time.
off with
We
your-
don't go together like this.
Okay.
Okay? One and then the other.
Excellent.
One and the other.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Okay, so let's move. And now move the other way. One and the other. Good. One at a time. Which means that imagine again, there is a stick between the knees and we're moving like this. Good.
Yeah.
I'm
It's,
starting to sweat already. How are
yeah.
you?
It reminds me of golf. My golf stance. Getting into that same
Yeah.
athletic position.
Similar sports, yeah.
And
Similar.
basketball, when I imagine taking a free throw shot, I'm in that athletic position,
Yeah.
knees bent
Forward. Yeah.
right there.
And also for the right-handers, your left foot is slightly forward than your right foot, and that goes with the strokes that we are going to be learning in
Yeah.
other sessions. You are not with the feet straight aligned.
Back, so your hips are a
Hips
little bit open.
because
Yeah.
when you play forehand, you use your hips and you need a space for this side. When you are left-hander, your right foot is slightly forward and your left foot is slightly
So
back.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How important is the posture to your overall posture and stance to your overall performance and gameplay?
Yeah, they say table tennis is easy to play but difficult to master. So
Right.
now we're talking about mastering the skills. You can learn with habits, but then you have limitations. If you are playing and then you are not using the scientific,
Yeah.
probably the most efficient ways to play, then you can get to a certain level. But again, when you want to improve, then we want to follow all the rules and what we know works the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a great player, you got to master the
Yes.
posture and the grip and the stance.
I can take it from any level that you are right now, and then take you to the better player. Improve the game.
Great. Looking forward to
Sometimes it's just the way you hold the racket. Some people hold the racket like this.
it. Yeah.
Some people are the backhand dominant, but again, then you are very weak in your forehand. So very important how to hold the racket, proper grip. So this is in summary the basics for the position, ready position at a table, how to move at a table, and how to grip the racket in the most efficient ways. Now we can take it, learn the strokes from here.
All right, so that was actually a really informative session. We learned all about the proper grip and stance and posture Thank you, Luba. That was wonderful instruction.
Yeah. It's very important, as you understand, standing at a table, holding the racket proper way to improve your game at any level.
And one thing that I just want to emphasize with our show, we really are promoting fundamental movement skills. And whether it's soccer or golf or tennis or hockey or floorball, I'm hearing the same fundamentals to start off with that sport. So I realized in your instruction that you're right on target with, you know, the importance and the value of the proper grip and the stance and the posture.
Very important, so we teach the right way from the beginning, so we don't have to reteach the bad habits.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's good. Did you want to be mentioning the Tepe?
Yeah.
I'll mention.
Welcome back, everybody. So, I hope you enjoyed our design, make, play segments for today. So, we're gonna jump right now into our question Kahoot, which are 3 questions that were based on those segments. So I hope you're ready. Go ahead, get a piece of paper and a pencil, or go straight to Twitter if you can, because we are going to go ahead and dive right into these questions. So I hope you're ready. And of course, I am checking the feed live on Twitter via my phone. So make sure if you respond on Twitter, I can actually see your guys' responses. So, guys and gals, I hope you're ready. Let's dive right into it. So our first question is regarding the design segment. And the question is, what is first point perspective? What is 1 point perspective? What is it? What is it? How do we do it? What is it? What does it contain? What are the elements that are required to draw in 1 point perspective? So that is your design question. Next up is our make segment, make question. And that one, wonderfully hosted. I don't know who was in that video, but they did a spectacular job. Just kidding. So for that segment, what are the steps in the design process? What are the steps in the design process? Okay, that's your make question. And finally, for your play question, what is the type of grip that we saw in the play segment? What was the type of grip that they're using in their table tennis for the play segment? Okay, so those are your three questions. So go ahead, you can message us at Twitter. I am actively watching the feed. Yeah, we'll see if we get any winners today. Of course, if you manage to answer all 3 questions, we'll send you, we'll DM and send you some sort of 3D printed prize. Okay, so that wraps up our question Kahoot. We're gonna take a brief 15-second intermission, but don't go anywhere, because next up we've got some engineering tributes, and I'm very excited to show off who we've got today. He is a very brilliant mind, and I posted on Twitter, so maybe you guys saw a little preview there. But don't go anywhere, and I will see you guys very soon. Hello and welcome back to our engineering tribute. So this is a segment of the show where we actually have a tribute to engineers and scientists who made significant contributions to society and research as a whole. And today we've got Claude Shannon on our highlight. And so I'm very excited to share Claude Shannon. We had to learn a lot about him in electrical engineering because he made a lot of contributions to information theory, entropy, and circuit logic. So let's go ahead and dive right into Claude Shannon. So first off, what was Claude Shannon's most significant tribute? Well, in my opinion, that would be coining the term entropy and really defining what entropy was. And this is a nice tie-in to the Nicholas Carnot video or tribute that we did last week. So if you watched that video, we talked about Nicholas Carnot and how he was optimizing the steam engine, came up with the Carnot cycle. Well, in that paper, he proposed something to do with some of the fundamental ideas for entropy. And here we've got Claude Shannon, who actually defined entropy, and he had read some of those papers as well. But yeah, Claude Shannon is often regarded as the father of entropy. So entropy is sort of like a measure of how random something is. Okay, it's sort of like a measure of the randomness of some sort of random variable. And it is a measure of the macro scale. So there's something that's known as self-information, which is the state of something. So for example, if I had 2 coins and I flipped both of them, whatever state that I saw in that instance would be an example of self-information. And then entropy is like if I flipped both those coins a billion times and averaged them out, what would the average sort of look like? Okay, and that's entropy. Entropy is a measure of the randomness of a state, basically, or of a system. And then self-information is looking at a specific state of that system. So Claude Shannon was one of the first people to really map this out well, and he published this in a paper called A Mathematical Theory of Communication. So this was a really influential paper at the time, and this was actually the paper that led to his PhD. PhD was for something else. PhD was for logic circuits. So not only did Claude Shannon define entropy, which was really important, not just for things like thermodynamics, but also really important for communication, information, all kinds of realms. He also was one of the first people to implement switch-based electronics using Boolean logic. So George Boole, you can look it up, was a mathematician who had come up with this large logic system. And Claude Shannon had been reading his material at the time and said, I wonder if we could do this same kind of logic with ands and ors and unions and intersections with electronics, with switching gates. So that is the project that he actually published for his PhD in electrical engineering. And it was a very successful, highly referenced paper. It ended up with Claude going to Bell Labs for some of the work that he had done in this logic switching, because it was really, really important to the telecommunication system that Bell had been working on, right? So, Graham Bell, founder of the telephone, well, Claude Shannon had gone to work at Bell Labs using some of these switching logic systems because they were really important for phone calls and making phone calls and managing phone lines. So Claude Shannon was really, really influential to the basic telecommunication system that let my great-great-grandfather call my great-great-grandmother and invite her out for a date, right? So very important for society as a whole, being able to communicate. And a lot of the switch-based logic that was proposed by Claude Shannon in that paper is actually used right now today. All of our electronics use this same logic. So very, very influential. So Claude Shannon had a bachelor's in electrical engineering and in mathematics. He was a big math fun guy. And when he was growing up, his childhood hero was Thomas Edison. Now, Thomas Edison was a big inventor, and so he had a big influence on Claude Shannon. Thomas Edison said he came up with 1,000 different reasons why 1,000 different filaments for the light bulb should be the correct filament. And in the end, only one of his 1,000 filaments worked, and that was the one that made sense. But Thomas Edison is often looked at by a lot of scientists and a lot of inventors as a role model because he tried out so much stuff. So I would really recommend that you check out Thomas Edison as well. And maybe we'll do a segment on him. Claude Shannon also built RC planes, boats, and actually created a telegraph machine using barbed wire. So him and his neighbors were stretched out, kilometers apart on a farm, but they still managed to communicate, him and his friends, using telegraphs that transmitted electrical signals along this barbed wire that was really for, keeping animals out of the farm. So it was kind of a cool thing, but he had always been a tinkerer throughout his life. And finally, he was a big gamer. So I know that a lot of our viewers are big gamers as well. Well, Claude Shannon was actually a gamer. Gamer at the time meant chess and Rubik's Cubes. So those were the kinds of games he played, not Minecraft. So that covers our engineering tribute. Next up, we're gonna dive right into our maker highlight. So I hope you're ready. Let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Right now, we're going into it. I hope you're ready. So, this is our maker highlight segment of the show. So I hope you're ready for this one. This is one of my favorite segments of the show where we get to highlight maker projects. So these are projects that are made by students here at ZMA, and they do a fantastic job. Really, really creative number of students. And so we wanted to highlight some of those projects that really we think excel and do a really, really good job of showing off some creativity and some engineering. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first maker highlight, which is Edna's first model. So this is a model that Edna created, and I thought it was a really creative layout for a house. Now I actually had a neighbor that had a purple and pink house. He would paint his house a different color every 3 months because that's the kind of guy he was. He thought it was fun. And so I saw these different colored houses and I thought, hey, that reminds me of my neighbor. That's a fantastic project. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at Edna's. Now, I can tell already that Edna has the makings of an engineer because she has all these different houses, that have different colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab a snippet of this. Beautiful. Yeah, but we can see here that all these houses have different colors, right? And when she was creating this, it was great because I can tell right now that she used the duplication tool. So for those of you who don't know, the best engineer is a lazy engineer, right? We try and reduce the amount of work that we really have to do. So I really appreciated this project because Edna had created some tables and some houses one time. She made one really good model, and then rather than make it a bunch of times, she actually used the duplication tool and she just duplicated it all the way around. So it was a really good example of how you can use macros or the duplication process here in Tinkercad to reduce your work, right? Once you've done something, if you've done something good once, you want to be able to reuse that thing, right? And that's some engineering thinking that I really appreciated about Edna's project. So good job, Edna. And I also love the colors. They feel very design, make, play. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but really fantastic job. So give yourself a pat on the back, Edna. Really, really good. Really liked this project. Okay, so next up on our maker highlight is Norman's Pizza. So this is a pizza that Norman created and I thought it looked absolutely delicious. I have not had breakfast yet today, and so I wanted to give a little highlight to Norman's Pizza. So this is a very creative, very screaming pizza, and he's only got 2 slices of pepperoni and 1 blue donut. But I thought it was a fantastic slice of pizza, and so I wanted to give a shout out to Norman. Now again, here we can see that we're using the duplication tool, right? So you can see all these little pieces. That's actually the cheese that is on the top of the pizza. And Norman only had to create one shred of cheese, and then he could just duplicate it all around, right? So we can see here that each of these slices of cheese, if I pull out a couple, they're actually all the same shape. He's just drawn one shred and then duplicated it a whole bunch of times to fit it onto his cheese pizza. So again, it's that creating something, one thing that's really well done, and then duplicating it into something that's sort of more massive, more complex, and more interesting, right? And so Norman did a really good job there. And of course, he's got all the layers to his pizza, right? He's got like the sauce underneath the cheese and then the dough at the very bottom. And of course, he's got the crust, like in today's math problem. This is a pizza that Nikolai would stay away. He'd want to rip the crust off. But yeah, good job, Norman. Fantastic. Really, really liked your pizza, man. So give yourself a pat on the back. Really well done. Okay, so finally, next up, and last but not least, we've got Connor and Owen's soap project. So this is a really interesting project. So I had Connor and Owen in my 3D printing and 3D design program that I was running, and they've really taken some of those skills to heart during these times, and they've been producing soap. to hand out for people to remind them to wash their hands and make sure that they've always got a bar of soap to do so. So I thought this was a really cool use of 3D printing. What they've done is they've 3D printed this object that says COVID sucks, and they've been putting it into soap. So they're making little soap bars that say COVID sucks in response to the situation. So they're having a little bit of fun with that and passing them out and donating them. And I just thought it was a wonderful project, really cool idea, and I really wanted to give these two a shout out. So Connor and Owen, really good job. Great use of 3D modeling and 3D design to help solve a problem, right? Everybody wants to use soap when it says something funny like COVID sucks. And I bet you these people are going to show other people, hey, check out this cool bar of soap I got. And it's going to remind them and their friends to wash their hands. So really good job. I really like that. One of the real important parts of art, I think, is to draw people into things that are important, right? And so this was a really good example of drawing people in using art to wash their hands. So that covers our maker highlights today. I hope you guys enjoyed the segment. And next up, we've got a very exciting interview. Hello and welcome to Design Make Play TV. I'm your host, Zachary Anderson. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, here on Design Make Play, we seek to engage makers through discussion and challenge, to learn about the STEAM-based curriculum, and of course to showcase maker projects. If you like anything you see here today, make sure to check us out at zenmakerlab.com.
Welcome back to Welcome back to the Design Make Play Show. My name's Siri Jones and I'm really happy and honored once again to have a special guest, Linda Arkelian. Linda Arkelian is a super experienced and passionate dancer. She's been with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, the Theatre Ballet of Canada. Welcome to the show today, Linda. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about your background in dance. And I understand you also had been involved with film, other arts areas.
A performing ballet and contemporary dancer. And then I went on to sort of expand my creativity. I've sort of been involved with theater, film, dance, photography. And when I teach my dance classes at the Dance Center, I actually invite many of these artists from these different disciplines to come and share the space with me, because I feel that dance encompasses all forms of art, and it's really lovely to include them all. Also because I've just had quite a taste with making films and stuff on my own, using dancers to do so, and I've been highly motivated or inspired by collaborating with multidisciplined artists when I do my work.
How did you get into dance originally? Just how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, as a young child, I guess it was, I've been doing this my entire life. I'm almost 60, and I started when I was 9-year-old. I went with my mom, took me alongside when my sister was taking dance classes, and she was kind of take the dance classes for my sister, and my sister really didn't have too much interest in it. But I went home and I would practice all the things that my sister had been taught in the class, and dance on the sidewalk, and start saving my pennies in a little piggy bank and say, I want my first dance slippers. So it became very clear to my parents that this was a passion that they should help to sort of support. So off I went into my dance career and haven't stopped, and don't ever really intend to. So hopefully I'll be dancing to my dying day.
Okay, and we mentioned last time when you were on the show a little bit about the whole COVID-19 crisis and how do you continue dancing in the midst of social isolation. Things are starting to open up now, but can you tell us a little bit about how you handled that, and also your amazing video project that I just saw? The video was amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, as soon as the COVID quarantine hit, or actually a few days prior to it, I was just like, oh, what am I going to do? I thought, I'll temporarily just offer some online classes until things get back up and running. And I really didn't see it as something that would be very long-term or permanent. So I started to create online classes where I'd stream my classes from my home, right here, actually. Luckily, I have a hardwood floor, and I have a fair amount of space that I can do that adequately. And I found there was an enormous demand, and the quarantine having lasted it's passing 3-month mark now, I've actually committed to all my dancers to continue this until September to see if I can get back at that time into the studio where I usually conduct my classes, a studio space at the Scotiabank Dance Center. But until then, I have freely offered to just volunteer free online classes to keep my dancers sane during quarantine and to keep them in shape and sort of mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy. At this time, also, I'm not only just teach my own classes at Scotiabank, but I also am a dance ballet instructor at Le Mans Dance Company, which is based in North Vancouver at the moment. And it's a lovely training company. I've been working with them for about 12 years. They're dancers that are almost at the level of being professionals. And so it's to help them make that last step into, as emerging artists, into hopefully getting a job as a dancer, professional dancer. So what happened with this situation was their season, which was season 11, it was aborted by the whole pandemic, and they had to close down the season. So all the repertoire that had been passionately rehearsing for months and months, they were not able to perform it in their June performance at the Capilano University Theater. So it was quite devastating for the group. Also, it makes quite a imprint on, well, this is a very short career, and suddenly they've got the stake driven through them, like, oh, well, you're losing time. For a dancer, time is really, it's like an hourglass. And so it was very devastating for the dancers. So the director, David Rodriguez, suggested that perhaps we should just keep online classes for them going, just to keep their hopes up, their hearts up, keep their training up. So while I was teaching them online, their ballet classes that I would normally do at the studio in the company, I had this idea that it would be really nice to create a project in which they could participate and feel they were actively performing in a way. And being a filmmaker myself, I thought, well, I have lots of connections to international artists, one of whom I used in this particular film that I created. It's a quarantine film project with Le Mans Dance, as well as an Amsterdam pianist-composer by the name of Muriel Bostorp. Mm-hmm. And I asked her if I could use a piece of her music. She said, anything you like, I'll send you anything you want. And so I was listening madly to her long collection of music and came across a piece that I thought really fit. It was apropos. It was called Lost in the Right Direction. It was about 3 minutes long. I was looking for a piece that was pretty long that could accommodate all the dancers to get involved. And so what I did was I created a piece called Lost in the Right Direction. It's about 3 minutes long. It incorporates not the entire company, but 15 dancers volunteered as well as myself. So there's 16 dancers in this film. Short film that basically, I would just say, it's a collaboration, and it the dancer's gestures just basically transcend the walls that border our isolation. So what I asked the dancers to do was I said, would you each be willing to contribute of your own choreography, not my own, an interpretation or a feeling that conjures how you're coping with being in quarantine and the isolation. And what I asked them to do was to create a piece of 10 seconds long each that would bridge from one to the next. It would be a thread whereby the first person's last gesture would be picked up, would become the second person's first gesture. And that way we could create a little sentence or a thread that would actually help join all those dancers who were suddenly dispersed and separated during quarantine. I also interviewed them and I said, hey, how's everyone coping? And the word that constantly came back was, well, with this lack of structure, I'm feeling lost. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, lost. So when I was looking in the beautiful repertoire of Muriel's compositions, I thought how interesting and how unbelievable that this triggered this word lost, that she has a piece called Lost in the Right Direction. I said, even though we're all feeling lost, this is actually the right direction that we have to take, as hard as it is, to flatten the curve in Vancouver and to get on top of this pandemic. So I thought this was really appropriate, and I sent them all with this thought of how they might express their emotions of feeling lost in isolation. And then I asked my lovely, the director of the company, my lovely friend Devi, if he would be willing to, if I came up with a concept and got this all organized, if he would be able to edit these little segments and put them together to create the film. So it was just released on Friday on Vimeo, and it had actually quite a astounding reception. People, I think, can relate to it. The music is very, very heartfelt and touching. Mm-hmm. I asked if you wouldn't mind. I'm not a dancer in the company, but just being one of their leaders, if I would be able to participate in the form of being the bookends to the film. So I open the film with a gesture from my heart. It invites all the contributions of the beautiful dancers, and the closing segment or piece of the film, it shows my hands coming back to my heart, and it's a close-up of just my beating heart, signifying the ongoing hope that we have, and just pulling in the whole fact that my strongest belief, and it always has been, is that art has the power, and it's an incredible power, like none other, to connect people in times of, and especially in times of crises.
Yes, it was really touching to watch the video, and the video we've put it on our Facebook. Hope that's okay, on Zenmaker Lab Facebook, and then from there they can also link, of course, to your site and see it again. But it's very powerful and unbelievable that the name of the song was the Lost in the Right Direction. I thought that you custom wrote the music and made the song title for the video, but you actually found the song. I would encourage everyone to go and take a look at that. And what is your Facebook as well? Do you have you're like a dance company, or is it your name?
Yeah, I have actually. I'm quite. It's got quite a popular group. It's called Dance Classes with Linda Arkelian on Facebook, and anyone's welcome to. I think I have to include them if they want to join. You. I think you can easily look at it. Yes. But if you'd like to join and become a member, if anyone's ever interested in taking classes, I do offer adult classes at the beginner and advanced level. Okay. And I'm also teaching this during this pandemic. I'm teaching a seniors class. It's a creative movement class for seniors. And if anyone knows of a senior that might be interested in benefiting from this during this difficult time, they're welcome to contact me through the dance group page, Dance Classes with Linda Arkelian, and I can give them the number to facilitate that.
That sounds really good. And our philosophy on Design Make Play is really about integrating the arts into some of the technology things we do. So there's science, technology, engineering, math, STEM, and then with the art becomes STEAM. So we've been sort of big proponents over the years, and usually the art is more like industrial design and that type of art, but it's really cool to hear about dance and the power it has. And also in this video, of course, there's videography and music and all those forms together plays a really beautiful role. We just have a last minute here. Any tips that you might give to young girls, young boys, youth for how they can stay active, how they can use dance to convey their emotions, things like that?
I think, there's so many ways right at home that we can do, like in terms of maybe finding a piece of music that they really like. TikTok is really, for instance, really popular these days, but finding a piece of music that expresses how they're feeling, or just if they're really have a lot of anxiety that day, to kind of use the body and use music and movement to help sort of channel that energy. And then if they're interested in art, as you were talking about visual arts, and I am as well, I always find it fun when you can create an emotion physically, so physicalize it to music. So you're inspired by the music, you've got the physicalization, and the third layer is to then fold that through and try to create a piece of artwork. So use paint or whatever medium that you're interested in or like to explore or have at your fingertips, and then maybe express maybe that dance or that you just created that was inspired by the music, take it to the third level, to another layer of art, and actually create something that's either sculptural art or painted visual art on a canvas or a watercolor or an ink drawing or something like that. So sort of to keep kind of an art journal of what you're going through, because I think journaling, even writing too, maybe a poetry or a thread of a sentence, or even for this, it was for me finding those words lost in the right direction. That was like the catalyst of, now I'm ready to follow through with my concept. It's got a concrete beginning and end.
All right, well, that's fantastic advice. It's great again to have Linda Arkelian here, our special guest on the Design Make Play show. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you back tomorrow. Take care and have a nice day. Thanks very much.